Good morning, everyone. It's Diana Minotti with Diana Minotti Fine Art Antiques and Collectibles, and we're here today of our show of a day in the life of an estate appraiser and liquidator called Diana's Treasures.
And
And
auctioneer.
oh
Boy, oh
yes, we are
boy.
licensed auctioneers.
40,
Yes.
right. Okay.
Okay. Perry knows our ID numbers.
4495 and 5002.
All right. Well, anyway, and I'm here with my husband Perry Mitrano.
Yes, that's me. Hello. How are you?
So while I'm in the field working on the estate sales, digging out the treasure, Perry is in the gallery showing off the pieces that did not sell, that make it to the shop.
Well, they're not always the pieces that don't sell. You sometimes select pieces that come.
Well, it's hard to take in outside consignment from our contractual clients because we are 5,000 square feet.
Well,
but
that's the purpose. So let me tell everybody where we are. We're at 15 Palm Harbor Village Way, right here in the city of Palm Coast, Flagler County, right here in Florida. So wherever you are in the world, look us up. And if you're driving by on 95, just punch in Diana Minotti Fine Art, and you will find us, and it will take you right to our door. And we have some nice, fine restaurants nearby that you could eat at. And if you need to make a visit to the sheriff's office, we're right behind him too. So.
well, at the shop is we're not only handling walk-in traffic, but we also are selling on four platforms online, which is Shopify Marketplace, eBay, and Poshmark. So lots of ways to shop, whether you can get out or not. This weekend sale, we are at 36 Fulton Place, and it is called Antique to Contemporary. So there is furnishings in every room, and it covers from antique, mid-century to contemporary items. And there's also lots of decor, and the garage is packed with really good tools.
So it's Friday, Saturday, and Monday.
Monday.
So even if you listen to the show Sunday, you could still make the Monday sale.
Monday,
Just
yes,
so you
9
know.
to 2.
Right.
The other thing is the what's new in the gallery. So I did a recent. If you go on our Facebook page, there is a recent live video, and I do a tour through the gallery of what we have there. So if you go to dianafineart.com, and you can click on our Facebook page, scroll down to the bottom, or if you go on Facebook, Diana Fine Art, Diana Minotti Fine Art, you can find us there. So there's some really interesting things there, and I'll cover it at the very end. But let's introduce our guest today.
Well, this is very exciting. Yes, I'm going to try to pronounce your name. All right?
Okay.
I'm going to try. Torlef.
You got it.
All right.
Yeah. Good morning.
Morning.
How are you?
Tell us who you are.
Sorry?
Tell us who you are.
Oh, sure. So my name is Torlef Borsting. I'm the development director for First Coast Opera in St. Augustine, just a little north of Palm Coast. Diana and Perry have been wonderful supporters of ours and coming to see our shows and hopefully having a good time.
I've loved it.
Fantastic. I have just begun working with First Coast Opera. I have been an opera singer for a very long time. If I told you my entire story, it's not very efficient, so I'll give you the Reader's Digest version.
Okay.
So I was a tuba player as a high school kid. I grew up in the 50th state, Hawaii, beautiful Hawaii,
Nice.
far away.
And we spent many weekends. Our son Joseph was a euphonium player.
Ah,
so we
cool.
did lots of band.
Oh, yeah. So band was my thing. I wanted to be a band director. That was the whole idea. So I went to do my undergrad and kind of fell very accidentally into singing because I had someone sort of discover my voice as an undergraduate. And suddenly the opera gigs kind of started falling in my lap a little bit. That it was very much, I wouldn't say that it was something that I was aware of prior. I didn't grow up in a house with opera. I didn't grow up in a house with that kind of music. But I think the first time I ever saw an opera, I know, I literally sat there with my mouth hanging open for 3 hours because it just overwhelmed me.
Which one was it?
The Marriage of Figaro by Mozart, yeah, which ends up being a show that I've done quite a few times over the course of my life as a singer. Yeah, it took me, and so that was the beginning of my new life. My brain rewired almost instantaneously, and I became a singer. Being a tuba player and being a singer are very different experiences. Being a tuba player, you sit in the back row, and people pay attention, but it's because it's the beat. When you're the singer, you're up in the front, and everybody's looking at you. So my personality adjusted a little bit too, I would say.
Well, I do find it amazing how anyone could even read music. I can't read music as much as I try. And my son he can do it. My other son can do it.
Yeah.
And I have one brother that can do it, but I can't do it.
Yeah.
The only note I can hold is a C note.
Oh. Good for you.
Should we always have lots of C
Yeah,
notes?
We
right.
try to
Exactly.
carry a bunch of C
That's
notes.
right.
Exactly.
That's right.
So we were talking this morning about the show, and I said, when was the first opera? How far back does it really go? And according to the Google, the first opera was Giacomo Peri's Daphne in 1597.
Yeah.
So those early productions, you said it's Eurydice?
Yeah. Eurydice, yeah.
Okay, of
Yeah.
1600, and
Yeah.
Claudia Monteverde of 1607. Those are those earliest operas, and it appears it's all about Florence, the Italians recreating ancient Greek and Rome tragedies and bringing them forefront.
Yeah, that's right.
You get into the Baroque period of 1600 to 1750. The key composers then were Heinrich Schultz and Jean-Baptiste Lully and Henry Purcell from England. But what I've really never heard of before was the castrati, the male singers who were castrated as boys to preserve their high voices, became singing stars of the 17th and 18th century.
Yeah, women were not really allowed to occupy roles that were female. So they had to do something. And so that's what they did. And they often found very young men or boys, really, who had singing ability. And then they would decide who was going to maintain that range of voice by castrating them, essentially. The last castrati that lived, I think, didn't even die that long ago, like 100 years ago in the early 1920s or something. So it's not that long ago this was going on.
The whole thing is horrifying, but let's
Yeah.
move on. All right.
Well, let's just cover, though, the classical period of opera is 1750 to 1830, and that's where we hear Mozart, Haydn, and Antonio Salieri. And then the 19th and 20th century operas is the Verdi, Wagner, and Puccini, which I think is what most people know.
Considered the modern opera, I think you said.
Well, I mean, it's the opera that I think most of us recognize as being the big romantic pieces that we all go to see, La Bohème, and you mentioned Rigoletto earlier, and Wagner, of course, is the Ring cycle. So that's again getting into mythology again. That's Norse mythology, but that's the most modern version of what we all think of as opera. Meanwhile, there are composers all over the world right now who are writing things today, modern stories and things that are very appropriate for what the world is going through now. People are consistently writing operas.
So let me get a few things out of the way.
Yeah.
Okay. So I like opera. I like the Italian opera over the German opera because the German opera has this comedy section of it that I don't get. So they're very dry, I think, in the way they portray the opera, and I don't know if that's good or bad, but I like it. I just don't.
Well, it could be you're Italian and you.
Well,
are
the
more
romantic part.
attracted.
I mean, when you hear, I don't want to do show and tell early, but I do have to bring this up. I mean, when you bring in the Holy Grail, all right? I mean, O Solo Mio, Pavarotti. I mean, now you say, you've heard it. You've heard it on some spaghetti commercial on TV.
Yeah.
You've heard it in furniture commercials. You've heard them. So this is such an important factor of what we watch. But the first time that I went, I heard it in high school one time, didn't get it. But then Diana and I went to one recently up there in St. Augustine, and I urge people to go to the St. Augustine Opera because even if you never did it before, you might really actually find it amazing. And I have to tell you, I would go back and listen again and again to your operas. They're fantastic. They really are. So it doesn't matter whether you're a big burly guy or a little tiny lady. This is for everyone.
Well, I think that the takeaway for the show and the reason why I really wanted to bring opera to the forefront, okay, maybe a lot of people say it isn't for me or they haven't tried it. And I think the idea of trying it and seeing it and the idea that, well, I don't speak the language. If how do I know what's going on? Well, the last operas that we've seen, you put the subtitles
Oh
up.
yeah, that helped out.
I was
That
gonna,
was very helpful.
it's really important for opera, especially in this country where English is the language of choice, of course, that we make it easily accessible to people. And so opera companies all over the country do super titles in English so that you can follow along, that no matter what the language is, you're going to be able to follow the story. And I would say one thing about opera, and I think it's really important for people to remember, it's the reason I love it. Singing is wonderful. Making those big sounds is wonderful. It can be really inspiring to feel those voices. But at the end of the day, operas are stories like anything, like a book you might read, like a musical you may go to see. It's drama, it's relationships, it's love, it's tragedy, it's all those things. All the things we all know are what opera shows us. It's just a slightly different form than a lot of us are used to.
Well, I do have a question.
Sure.
The First Coast Opera. What when were they founded, and what was the how did they develop their genre of opera?
So First Coast Opera is 25 years old. This is the end of our 25th year existing as a company. It started very locally in St. Augustine, still local to St. Augustine, but has grown into what I would consider to be like a really lovely regional company, bringing singers in from all sorts of areas of the country, but primarily around us, close enough, say up and down the East Coast. Opera is an interesting art form in that, like you were saying before, people often think, well, maybe it's not for me. First Coast Opera was very small when it began, and we have, interestingly, since the pandemic even specifically, grown, I feel like, exponentially to the point where we're able to do a much more broad range of repertoire. We're able to bring in really interesting singers who are on their way in their careers. We pride ourselves on finding those people and being a part of their journey onto larger stages at some point. And I think that's one of the things that's really important for audience members to understand is when you come to a company like First Coast Opera to see an opera, you're going to see singers you may see on the stage of the Metropolitan Opera someday in New York.
That's amazing.
Or, you just never know where someone's career trajectory is going to take them. And I shouldn't say you never know. You hear somebody open their mouth and you have a pretty good feeling that this is a person who could really do something, right? So it can be a really magical moment to have that realization and to see that person up there and go, yeah, I think it'd be really interesting to follow them and see where they go. And it's just kind of fun to track these singers as they move. That's why I've always enjoyed it. I've talked to many a young singer over the course of my life as a singer, and they all want to know what it's going to be like, what it's going to feel like in this career. And there's beautiful ups and downs, and some of it can be very unexpected, but it's just the constant discipline and work of making yourself into a bigger and better artist, essentially.
Well, again, the big takeaway for me is I want people to feel. Everyone remembers the movie Pretty Woman,
Right.
and Richard Gere taking Julia Roberts to the opera. There was no subtitles. She had no idea, never heard it, never saw it, and yet she was completely moved. And I think that even if you don't know the words, it's the facial expressions and the costume. I mean, you guys did an unbelievable job in the set design. It's really magical.
Yeah, we have a few things that we're going to talk about now. So we're into my favorite topic. The whole show is based on everything but one more important thing than the other, which is
Show and tell.
show and tell. Right now, if you remember back when you were a young child, right? When you were in school, everyone did show and tell, right? It doesn't matter. I mean, you could be 95 years old. You did show and tell, okay? So we do show and tell on the show, and Diana makes me run around the store and try to find things that matter to the subject of what we're doing today. So, Diana, tell us about this. And you said Julia Roberts and Richard Gere. So, what's
Well,
this piece
that's
here?
a piece of porcelain. It's Dresden, Germany, and we call it the Dresden Girls because all of the crinoline it's so fragile. You look at it,
Yeah, it's fragile. Yeah, I'm going to put it down now.
Yeah, don't
So,
breathe on it.
Extremely
this
fragile.
piece, this is like we're just pointing out that if someone was going to go to the opera way back then, they would have to dress up like this because this was a big deal, right? Back then.
Well, but that is what the dress is, and most of the operas they're dressed
Yeah, that's that's sort of costume
very,
accurate
very
for
much
sure.
so.
Absolutely.
Okay, and what do we have here, and why is it doing that?
Well,
Okay.
it's because it's a perfume bottle. It is also porcelain. It is stamped Germany on the bottom, and if you lift her head, there you go. That is for your perfume to dab on you.
All right.
And I just love that little piece. I think I should buy that.
Okay. Where are you putting it? Is the question.
It's beautiful. I
right.
understand.
And then,
Well, show
okay,
the
give me-
lover's plate. Look at this. Isn't that?
let me show my guest first.
Isn't that absolutely stunning?
Oh yeah.
So we at the
That is
gallery
lovely.
we do have some really wonderful pieces. If you're inspired by this show and by the opera, and you want to have a little something in the house, you have to you have to surround yourself with beauty. It's just the way to live.
Is that good, Mark? Yeah. So, and we also, our guest has brought us something too.
Oh
that
yes, let's see your show
Oh,
and
my
tell
gosh.
item.
Yeah.
We
So-
have more, but I want to see.
I feel like I
yours.
was always bad at show and tell because I love to talk, but I didn't actually know what I was talking about. So this is a score. Interestingly, we were just talking about the Magic Flute. That was the last production that we did at First Coast Opera. It's an opera score. I'll show you that, and you can see it's definitely aged. It says Die Zauberflöte on the front, which is the magic flute in German, and there's an Italian. Okay, so the top line, if you look at a typical musical score, I'm going to open this up. Usually you'll see in this country anyway, you'll see the text that the opera was written in, and then you'll see an English translation underneath it. In this case, the top text is Italian with German underneath it, which is interesting because it is an opera in German with dialogue in German. It probably gets done in Italian, maybe in Italy or something. At some point it did. But anyway, I couldn't tell you how old this is. I don't know why I have it. I love it just because it feels so different than everything else that I have in the house. Yeah.
Well, Diana, can't you tell a little bit from the binding what year that might be?
Well, first of all, we did do Call a Friend. So Olaf Hostenschild, who works for us, born in Germany, I had sent him a picture of your book a couple of minutes ago.
Yeah.
And he was stumped on one of them, so he actually called his aunt. And she said...
In Germany.
Yeah. And it says the Aufzugen that we couldn't figure out what that
Yeah.
meant. It translates to breaths or inhales.
Oh.
So maybe that's what
What is this?
all that's about.
That's a
Interesting.
fantastic. Well, now at least you know what that means.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I can't see what you're showing.
Sorry.
Okay, so that is a print. It is the Godet's fashion plates. So the way you would go to the Publix and at checkout there is a magazine, Mademoiselle or Harper's Bazaar, and showing you what the latest fashion is. Those are they were illustrations for women to look at and to design their outfits, and so that was sort of like their women's wear daily of their hairstyles, jewelry, the outfits, the shoes,
What's this
all
piece?
their accessories. That is a early embroidery, and that also has women of the, I can't see, looks
It's-
like
it's-
18th century.
It's dated 1866.
Okay,
just
there
so
you
you
go.
know. So imagine that we have something, from 1866.
19th century. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and the embroideries, you have to remember, this was women showing their household duties and chores. It would be embroidery and hand painting on porcelains. That was very much an everyday or learning to play the piano, the harpsichord. Isn't that
And
beautiful?
this one's dated.
Yeah, I love it. The
silk,
texture
the
in
silk of
particular.
it.
Yeah,
is
it's
This
really
one's
silk
dated
stitching.
1861.
Right.
Right, imagine that.
Very, very early.
Yeah. So
So-
someone did this. It's going to be what's that? 200, almost. 150 years. 100, right? It's a long, long time ago already. So,
I want you
and
to.
this is in our shop. This is in the shop.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah,
This.
of
I mean,
course.
you know, if you want to come and see stuff that's antique and old, here it is.
I want you to show the hat pins because this has a lot of relevance. Not so much. Well,
These are 19th century, early 20th century hat pins. These are sterling silver heads. Okay, but the reason why I took this particular one, and I hope you can you see it? Okay, Mark. This is oftentimes type things that they use in these operas. You know, they emulate these masks and faces and
but the importance of the hat pin, yes, they were very decorative, but you have to also remember that women think about London or New York City in its earliest form.
yes, they would
It was
stab you with it.
well, it was protection.
Yeah.
So you would have, and the bigger the hat pin, the better. And you would want it to have a large, you could put it between your fingers and able to.
Right, so you
like
take it
that.
out of your hat and
Right.
and stab your
Right.
Wow.
person trying to escort you and get a kiss at the same time.
Well, if you were being escorted, was a good thing.
Well,
If
who
you
knows?
weren't,
I'm just making a point.
you know,
And then this one. The reason why I took this one is this is like a crow's foot with a ball.
that's coral.
I know. I was going to say coral, but this is something that you might see, you know, as a prop in a opera. That's the only reason why I took it. And this again is also a large hat pin, and the coral piece is beautiful. I mean, it's a nice color. All right, and then I have a couple more props before we get closer to the end of the show, and you know, in every opera that I take. Oh, wait, then one more piece of artwork. Excuse me.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay. And this is basically a great depiction of, I don't know, it's hard to see, it's a little dark. Is it good, Mark? This is a great depiction of of something that would be done in opera. You know, who am I thinking?
Well, I don't know. Is it Romeo and Juliet or
Could
is
be.
it de Bergerac?
Right? What do you think?
Gosh.
And the key to that, and I'll show it back up you in a minute. The key to that is that there's always a tragedy at the end, okay? And so, you know, for like an hour and 45 minutes straight, there's somebody walking around with a dagger who's going to stab the other lover, you know, one way or the other. There was always trouble back at the
Isn't it everyday
the
life?
tavern, I
Isn't
guess.
it life? 1 minute, everything is wonderful, everything is great. I
Yeah.
feel like a hero, and the next minute we're dogs.
and they sing about it.
Something goes wrong.
And they're singing about it through the whole opera. They're constantly singing about it, and you know the dagger will come out, and you know, and they'll say, you know, everything in either German or Italian, and then he'll put the dagger down and cry on the floor and emotion. I mean, am I saying this right? Am I doing an opera
I
right
mean,
now?
oftentimes when people on their way to death, they get stabbed or something happens, and they sing an entire aria after that, letting you know about all the
Yes.
details. It takes a long time to die.
It does
in
take
the
a long in the
operatic
opera
world.
business,
It
right?
takes a long time
Right?
to
and
die.
Then, and I got one more thing to show, and I did show it earlier, but because we're in show and tell, I just love this guy. Did I leave one? What is that?
Let's see.
Oh, we showed that. Well, in 1994, the great three singers with Pavarotti.
Yeah, Domingo,
Domingo,
Placido Domingo, and Jose Carreras.
Right. Everyone
three
knows them.
tenors.
They've watched them. You've seen them constantly on TV. You watch YouTube, you'll see them. I'll never forget. That was the first time I really, really engaged with opera. And from that point, I mean, I even went out and sought out their tapes and listened to them. And so but the beauty of the way they sing and how strong they are, singing in triple octaves and am I saying it right? And it was truly amazing. I love it.
Well, what we just saw Ivolo.
Yes, we saw Volo who
Oh,
sang.
Ivolo, yeah.
Yes, who sang it.
It was
Yeah.
it was really fantastic.
Yeah, that was unbelievable.
Where did we go for that?
In Jacksonville at the downtown auditorium. So
That
Diana,
was stunning.
we have to
Wrap it up?
Wrap it up, and we definitely want to make sure we get a little bit more information about.
Well, what's your next show? Because I wanted to talk real quick about the Romanza Festival.
Yeah, so the Romanza Festival that happens in May. It's May 2nd through the 18th in St. Augustine.
So everybody jot down,
Yeah.
save that date.
And there's lots of different music on the Romanza Festival, but First Coast Opera does have an entry. An entry is not a competition, but it's something that we present every year as part of the festival. And this year it's The Legend of Turandot, which Turandot is a huge Puccini opera, generally 3 hours long. This version is about 48 minutes long.
I like that.
Very condensed. Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, I'll be there.
Very condensed, performed by a group called the Pinnacle Singers, of which I am a member, a founding member. So I'll be singing what would be the tenor role of Calaf, though I'm a baritone. So there's some adjustments to be made, but the music is gorgeous. It's a very cool story about tragedy and entitlement and love and all these things. So, but again, condensed down so that it's comfortable to be able to sit through it. You can get through the entire thing.
Is there a dagger involved?
There is a dagger
As I told
involved.
you.
As a matter of fact, there is a dagger
Do you need a
involved.
prop?
There's always a
Yeah,
dagger.
seriously. And this person takes their own life, which is terrible. But there's definitely a dagger involved.
Yeah, well,
for
this
sure.
this fantasy, guys.
Yes,
It's fantasy.
exactly.
So
that sounds great. I'm looking forward to it. So it's a festival. It's all weekend of different.
Yeah, it's 2
music.
weeks, and the performance of Turandot is actually on the 9th of May. It's a
Okay.
noon show, so it's literally at 12 o'clock in the middle of the day.
I won't
What
be
day
here.
of the week is that?
It's a Friday,
I won't be here.
Oh, I had a
and
sale.
it's free. So please stop by. I mean, it's nothing. It's you get a ticket. It's a free ticket. So
Now, I do want to say what we got new at the gallery, because if we're going to wrap it up quick.
Okay, well, why don't we say goodbye to our guest, and then you could wrap it up.
Okay.
Is that fair enough?
Well,
so
He's
again,
not leaving.
no, I mean we have to say, we have to.
Thank
so,
you.
again. Thank you for coming, and make sure everyone goes up and sees the shows.
Let's
Yeah.
see if we can get you to come to Flagler County. I don't think we've ever had an opera
listen,
here.
we were just talking about getting outside of town, so it's coming. Don't worry.
Like
We're-
we used to do Picnic in
Yeah.
the Pops with the Jacksonville Symphony.
Sure.
So I would love to see something like that.
Yeah,
happen.
we would be thrilled
Well,
to do
we need
something.
to give Amelia
in
Fuller
Flag-
a call at the Flagler Auditorium.
We,
Oh,
we
great.
don't want to blow the earphones out, but
Yeah.
I wish you could give us an aria of some
Oh
kind.
my
but
gosh, yeah,
next-
that would be a lot.
Could he? Could you?
That'd be a lot
Belt
in
out a
here.
little too?
no,
I don't know.
I think
All right.
Mark would blow up.
All right. So at the gallery, just real quick, people always want to know when
Thank
do
you
we
for coming.
when do
Of
we get a
course, thank you.
Highwaymen in, and we do have an RA of McLendon.
Yes.
His dates are 1932 to 2024, so he's recently passed. And this is a cherry to the marketplace. This lady bought it from him.
The nicest one I've seen in a long time, and it's
She
huge.
bought it
It's a
from
big
him on the
piece.
side of the road.
Yeah.
She's had it in her family. It's been on the wall ever since, and she is looking to liquidate it. So you can come and see it at the shop. And then the other thing is that surrealist painting we have.
That's a
Jorge
crazy
Noceda Sánchez. He's Dominican. His birth dates are 1925 to 1987.
Dali-esque kind of.
Very much so. And his market, which is really interesting, this is somebody to watch and somebody to collect. He was like, a couple of $100 to $2,500 max. And then just recently at Doyle's in New York, his last piece went for about $28,000.
Yeah, we have one in the store. So come in and check it out. And even if you're not a buyer, at least come in and look at something that's
He's
very unique.
really, really interesting. So anyway, and then lastly, I do want to just give a quick plug to the Estate Planning Council of the Fun Coast, which is a Flagler and Volusia chapter. Our next meeting is Thursday, April 17th. From 8 to 10. If you come at 8, you can network and chat. We'll start at 8:30. It goes to 9:45, but a lot of people, again, like to socialize and network. Our guest is going to be the president and CEO of Advent Health, which is David Weiss, and that is he covers Volusia, Flagler, and St. Johns County.
And you
So
are
it should
the
be really a great show, and it is at Daytona One, across the street from Speedway.
and you are the
I'm president this year of the
right.
council.
So a lot. I mean, every show you talk about them. A lot of people may not realize why you talk about them, but they are important to
The
our
Estate Planning
industry.
Council is very helpful in the community, and if you're a professional, you really should come out and join us. It is attorneys and accountants and guardians,
And they would be the people that oftentimes
bankers,
hire estate sale companies
insurance.
like us and auctioneers.
Absolutely, and it's really wonderful. My sidekick is this year is Fernanda Haley. She's with PNC Private Bank, and she's been coordinating all of the guests. So it's a great opportunity for people to get together.
So we appreciate everything, and that you. Thank you for coming in. It was a great show. This was really fun today. I enjoyed it. Diana, you picked a great show today. So time to say goodbye.
All right, thank you very much, folks. We'll see you next week.